So you're using Wix and you want to create a completely custom sign up or login experience and take full control using Velo code. Welcome back to the Wix Wiz. I'm Eitan, and today we're going to be talking about the third level of customization with regard to custom sign up and login. In the first episode of this series, we touched upon the two no code options, which is the default and the custom sign up and login forms. And today we're going to be talking about the Velo sign up and login forms, as well as lots of other interesting things with regard to registering and logging in members to your site using Velo code. So if you don't want to miss out on all that and more, let's get started. First, let's do a brief recap. So in the previous episode of this series, we talked about the two first levels of customization, or at least the default and first level of customization with regard to your Wix members sign up and login forms. So here inside of Wix Classic, if I go over here to sign up and login, so here we have the two sign up and login forms. And here within each of these forms inside of the settings, it is set to the custom form. That's what we built last time. And you can see here that this is the second level after default form, where today we're going to be talking about this third level, which is Velo form, which is going to require some code. If you don't see this option over here inside of your menu, then just make sure that you have dev mode turned on. If you don't have dev mode turned on, this is not going to work. Again, I'm going to be focusing on the Wix Classic editor, but I do have a Wix Studio editor open here, just in case there's something where there might be a discrepancy, and we might want to highlight what the differences may be. But essentially, inside of Wix Studio, this should be the same. So if you go to your site pages, here inside of the sign up form, you have the option to select custom or Velo form. And if you don't see the Velo form, then you'll just want to make sure that your code mode here is turned on. Okay, so that is what we're going to be doing today. So let's go ahead and hop in. To make our sign up form a Velo form, we're just going to go ahead and switch here from custom form to Velo form. Okay, once we go ahead and do that, so you can see here that we have a prompt of what does this Velo form link to. So essentially, where is this custom sign up form located? And if we click over here, then we have the option to select a lightbox. Okay, so here we have two options here, which are the custom sign up and the custom login lightboxes that we built earlier for the custom sign up. So not the Velo, but the custom sign up. And if you want, you also have the option to add a new lightbox, which is probably what you're going to want to do, because the default custom sign up and login are not really appropriate for a fully customized Velo solution. So let's go ahead and go over here, and we can just click on this prompt to create a new lightbox. And then over here, we can go ahead and select a lightbox of our choice. It always annoys me that there isn't like a blank lightbox to add over here. I think in Wix Studio there is, but let's just go ahead and choose one of these blank, the most blank one that I can find. So let's just choose, let's say, this announcements lightbox. And here we're just going to go ahead and get rid of everything that we have in here. We can leave the orange background. It's not really doing us much harm. And if we go over here into our pages and menus, so you can see here now this lightbox appears here inside of our lightbox section. And I'm just going to want to go ahead and rename that because this is not so appropriate. Announcements were back. So for example, let's just call this our Velo sign up, like that. And now I'm going to head back over here into sign up and login, go to sign up form, and open this up right over here. So I'm going to go over here to settings. And again, instead of custom form, I'm going to select Velo form. And here, instead of custom sign up, I'm going to select our new Velo sign up lightbox. So I'm just going to go ahead and click done. And now that we've done that, so this Velo sign up lightbox that we created should be, so not this one, but the other one with the orange background, should be what opens essentially when we decide to log in or sign up to the website. So again, you don't have to add the lightbox in the way that I did. You can also add the lightbox first. You don't have to necessarily go through the sign up settings in order to do that. It's just the direction that I chose this time. But if we go ahead and publish the site, and then we head over to our live site, I'm just going to go ahead and hit refresh over there. And I'm going to go and click login. And you can see here now that it opened up the lightbox that we designated to be the sign up lightbox. So, but there's nothing here yet, okay, because we haven't done any coding, we haven't done any design. But essentially what this approach does is it gives you a blank canvas. So it allows you to, instead of using either the default login, which you have no control over, or the custom sign-up login forms, which you have some design control over, this allows you to essentially connect it to a blank slate lightbox. And here you have full reign of control where you can add in inputs and set up registration through the Velo APIs or the JavaScript SDK. And that's what we're going to explore at the moment. Before we do that, you might be thinking to yourself, okay, what is the point of this? Like, why do I need Wix to allow me to connect to a custom lightbox like this? So the point being that whenever the sign up or login experience would be triggered natively. So just to remind you how we got to this lightbox, so we click this login button over here. So that is a native Wix widget, and essentially it knows to point to here because we told it to. If we were to develop this entire custom sign up and login experience by ourselves without telling Wix where to point to, then whenever we encountered a scenario where the user was supposed to log in, such as clicking this widget or a members only page, or even if we prompt sign up login from our code, then Wix won't know where to go unless we tell it where it should be pointing to, which is over here. This also highlights a certain challenge that you might encounter if you decide to develop your custom code sign up login on a Wix page instead of a Wix lightbox. So some people don't really like the fact that you can only use a lightbox for sign up and login if you're using default or custom for sure. And even when you're using this Velo option here, you don't have the option to point to a specific page. It has to be a lightbox. And some people want to have a specific page on their site for sign up login. So they do everything I'm about to show you here inside this lightbox on a page of their website. But if you do that, then essentially what's going to happen is that anytime that you would have native sign up and login, so for example, if somebody were to click on this widget right over here, then it wouldn't take them to your sign up and login page. It would take them to one of the lightboxes that we've explored so far. And that means that essentially you need to also develop your own custom login widget. And anywhere where you have like a members only page or something like that, you might encounter some issues. So that is one of the current downsides of the customization options within Wix. There's not much you can do about it. I mean, if you need to have a login or member page, then you're going to have to do what you have to do. But I will try at the end of this episode to show an alternative which will still allow you to use a lightbox and create a URL for your sign up or login experience. So if you need to have a URL for signing up or login on your site, then you can still do that even though it's going to be done through a lightbox. Now that we have successfully connected our member signup form to our custom lightbox, to our Velo signup lightbox, we now have a blank canvas on which we can implement our custom member registration. We're going to be doing that using several inputs and Velo code. So essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding in some elements. So let me add in, for example, 2 inputs over here. So let's say we're going to want to collect our email. So let's go ahead and change this in settings. And this is going to be an email. And let's say add your email right over here. And we'll also set up an input for our password. Let me just go ahead and copy that. And I'm going to paste it. And here we'll change this to a password input right over here. So you see this is password. And instead of add your email, we're going to say add your password. And in addition, we're going to have a button. And this button is going to confirm the registration. I'm just going to add this right over here. And we'll have this say, let's say, sign up. Okay, so this is going to be the core of our custom registration form. And the beauty of custom registration is that you can do anything that you want here. So you can add additional inputs, experiences, etc. I'm going to be showing you the bare bones of what you need in order to do this, but this is really the starting point and not the ending point. Some things that you might want to add in that we're not really going to touch on so much is maybe, let's say, a loader or different kind of confirmation or error messages, etc. I do talk about these things in some other tutorials where we talk about custom forms. But for now, I'm really just going to be focusing on the registration aspects and the coding. With regard to the coding, it's important to note here which APIs we're going to be using for our custom registration. Wix has recently announced that they are doing a migration from the Velo APIs to the JavaScript SDK. So let me try and highlight what this means. I have another video that I released specifically about this topic, and this is something that's ongoing. But essentially, if we take a look over here, so this is the Velo API documentation. And you can see here that we have several different packages here with regard to members. So we have Wix members frontend, members v2 backend, and specifically within frontend, we have under authentication, we have this register method. So this is going to be the core of the solution that we're building. And essentially what it does is it takes an email and a password, and it creates a member. Okay, that's what we're doing. It's not going to be overly complex. So this is the Velo API. This is what you would have used without a doubt until about a month ago. If we take a look here at the JavaScript SDK, so we'll see here that within, again, front-end modules and members authentication, we also have a similar corresponding register function. So theoretically, according to Wix's recommendation, we should be using this one because this is the one that's in the SDK. The reason I still want to stick to the Velo APIs, at least for the time being, is because this is all rather new. And when things are new, they tend to not work 100%, at least when it comes to Wix. Okay, so Wix is a very fast innovating company, which usually means that when they release something, you can take a deep breath and use it confidently about 3 to 6 months later. So let me try and highlight why I'm saying this. And this is it's an example that I stumbled upon that happens to be in our topic of discussion here, but I think it's important because it really highlights why I'm making certain decisions. So let's take a look here at the register method. And you'll notice here that the register method here returns 2 different things based on a certain setting. So if we take a look over here, you'll see that it could return either an approval token or a member. Okay, and you can see this highlighted over here. So when the site is configured for manual approval, right over here, then the status is pending and an approval token is returned. But if the site is configured for automatic approval, then it's active and it'll return a member. Okay, and they have this highlighted over here as well in the notes. So when your site's member signup settings are set to automatic, etc., etc., what does this essentially mean? This might be important for you as well, depending on what your settings are when you're doing this registration. So if we go over here to the settings in the dashboard, so this is the sign up and login security settings here. So the first setting that we have over here is who can be a site member. And you have two options. So the default is everyone who signs up. And the second one is only people I manually approve. So if you have it set to only people I manually approve, obviously Wix is not going to register a member as soon as you use the register method, but rather it's going to wait for some kind of approval. And there are different ways this approval can be done. And we might have time to explore it. I will see how long this tutorial runs. But essentially, if you select here only people I manually approve, what's going to happen is that Wix is going to return, instead of the member, it's going to return this approval token, which is later used to approve the member. And again, this approval can happen in different ways depending on what you want to do. But essentially, the instructions that they give here is that the token for approving the member with the approve by token function. So this is something that needs to happen in the back end. And if I click on this link over here, that takes us to the Velo API. Okay, so remember, we were in the SDK, and we were using the register method in the SDK, but approve by token is a method that only exists in the Velo API. So here we're back in Wix members backend of the Velo API, and we have approve by token. So this is a backend method that we can use to approve the member using the token that was returned from the register method. And if we go back to the SDK and we go here to members over here, and we look inside, again, this is the backend modules here. So just to show you where I am. So backend modules of the SDK. And we go over here to members. You'll notice here that there is, inside of authentication. So you'll see here that there is essentially no option for approving the member by token. Okay, so here, let's take a look here inside of members as well. I don't remember if it was under members or under authentication or whatnot. You'll see here that we have an approve member method here. But this is done with the member ID, it seems. So here, the ID of the member to approve. Okay, so not using a token from the front end. And I don't see any option here to approve by token. And generally, there just seems to be discrepancy between what's available here inside of the SDK versus what's available here inside of the inside of Wix members. So if we go here to, again, Wix members backend, here inside of authentication, so we have all of this stuff over here inside of Wix members backend, and that just does not really correlate with what we have here inside of the SDK, inside of Wix members backend. Authentication barely has anything. So I don't know. So again, maybe things are in a different place and I couldn't find it. I'll give the benefit of the doubt, but generally it just seems like there is huge discrepancy between at least the organization and probably availability of APIs between Velo and SDK. So why still use the Velo API? Because the Velo API was created with Wix websites in mind. So I'm going to assume that the Velo API will be, when there's a discrepancy, the Velo API will be favorable towards me as a developer on a Wix website until proven otherwise. So that is the reason why we're sticking with the Velo API for this tutorial. I hope I didn't confuse you, but I think we also got some important background here about the different options here inside of the API itself and different scenarios. So now we're going to hop in and we're actually going to start implementing. If you want you can go ahead and try and do what we're doing, at least partially, with the SDK to practice. There isn't a huge difference in the implementation except for how the imports work. Otherwise, everything should be rather similar. But again, since the Velo API, to the best of my knowledge, seems more robust for the scenarios that we need, we're going to be using the Velo API at the moment. So let's hop in and start implementing the register method. I hope I did not overcomplicate things and scare you away with my monologue before, but don't worry if you didn't understand everything I said. Hopefully, if you just follow along with these steps, then you will successfully be able to register a member with code. So here we are inside of our Lightbox, and like pages on Wix websites, Lightboxes also come with an IDE, so a code that we can write for this specific Lightbox. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of all this boilerplate code over here. And I'm going to grab the import from our Velo API. So here we are inside of the Velo API. And I'm going to go over here to authentication. And I'm going to make sure that we're here inside of Wix members front end. Okay, because this is code that we're going to write on the front end. You also have the option to implement registration in the back end. There are some nuanced differences. You can read about it here inside of the documentation. The reason I'm showing the front end option is because I think it's simpler. It has less steps, so it might be a little more accessible to more people. But again, depending on your scenario, you might want to implement registration on the back end. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab this import line right over here. And I'm going to head back to our website. And I'm just going to put this right over here on top of the onReady. Just like that. I'll give one last nod to the SDK. If you were doing the SDK, then instead what you would do is you would go ahead and go to the front-end modules again. You're going to go to members, and you're going to go to authentication, register, and you'd copy the import from over here instead. So let's go over here, and you'd put the import over there just like that. And you can see here that this would require us to install a package. So the Velo imports, okay, I'll do it like Velo import is that. And this is the SDK import. And the difference is that this is already built into our Wix website, whereas this we would need to install. So we can install the npm package just by clicking over there and saying install. And then once we do that, it should clear up all the errors over here. Let's see, it still says installing. There we go. It's installed. So this over here is cleared up. And we only have an error here because we have authentication twice. But if I was to comment this out, then we wouldn't have that issue. And again, I'm giving a nod here to the SDK imports because depending on when you're watching this tutorial, let's say it's in half a year. I mean, I know that people watch these tutorials a lot later. So it could be that, a year in the future, the SDK is up, it's up to standard and it's usable and it's recommended, and that's what you're going to end up using. So I just kind of want to show you, depending on which future you is watching the tutorial, which of these two you might use. Other than this import difference over here, it should be rather the same what we're going to implement. Okay, so again, it should follow mostly, hopefully it will be, the better job Wix does in implementing the SDK, the more similar it'll be. So if they do an awesome job, then it'll be super, super similar. And if they do an okay job, then there might be some small differences. So we imported authentication over here. And essentially what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to call this authentication when somebody clicks on our sign up button. Okay, right over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this sign up button a new name. Sign up button, just like that. And I wrote sing up button. I knew there was something wrong here. Sign up button. And when somebody clicks that, we're going to do our authentication. So let's go ahead here into our onReady. And I'm going to select my sign up button. And I'm going to do here on click. And when somebody clicks the sign up button, we are going to need to grab that email and password from our inputs. So we can go over here to email, and I'm going to go over here and call this, let's say, our email input. And over here, I'm going to call this our password input. And then once we do that, so over here, we can go ahead and grab our email and password. So I'm going to declare two variables. One's going to be email, and that's going to be our email input.value. And const password equals to password input.value. And after we do that, we're going to finally call our authentication method. So I'm going to say here const member equals to. And since this is going to be asynchronous, I'm going to add async over here. And I'm going to say here that member equals to await authentication dot. And here we have all the different options here, and we're going to be using register. And we're going to pass in our email, and we're going to pass in our password. We also have the option to pass in options, but we're not going to pass in options for now. And this should be enough in order to create our member. So I'm just going to add over here console.log member, just like that. And remember that if you do have that required approval setting on, then instead of member here, you're going to get an approval token. So what you can do is also check for, you can also check for the status. So here, this might actually not be so accurate of saying that this is member right here, because if we take a look at the docs, so we see here that it returns a registration result, and within that result is the member. So this is not 100% correct. So if what I set up here, so here it's more correct to say here that this is the registration results, and then have that over here, and the member is going to be part of that registration result. But we can talk more about that after. It's just a difference in naming, but it'll be less confusing this way because inside the registration result, there's going to be a member. So this, again, this is the bare bones, but I think that this should be enough in order for us to test it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and publish this. You can also publish a test site if you're not ready to kind of publish to your live site just yet. And let's head over now to our live site right over here. And I'm just going to give it a refresh just to make sure we're using the most updated version of the site. I'm going to hit login over here, and hopefully we'll see, yeah, there we go, our new login form. I'm going to hit inspect right over here so we can see our console logs. And here, let's add an email. So I'm going to add here, let's say, test@thewixwiz.com. And I'm going to add a password, which I'm not going to tell you what it is. And I'm going to hit here, sign up. Verification, that's fair. I am a human. And let's see what happens over here. Okay, there we go. So you can see a few things happened here. So first of all, the Lightbox closed automatically, and I was logged into the site. Okay, so we can explore that in a moment. And you can see here that we got back member, which is interesting. I guess I didn't change. Yeah, I didn't change this I should have changed to say something else. But okay, this all makes sense. So here, member, and so here within the member, we can see here that we got a member like this. Okay, so here we got all the data about the new member that was created, and we got a status of active. Okay, so this is the bare bones registration, and you can see here that it is working. One cool thing that I'll show you, because if you found this code a little complex, What you can try and do is use this new AI assistant here that's built into the side. So if you go over here and click AI assistant, what you can do is you can build AI generated code, mostly based on actions on specific elements. So at the moment, my password input is selected, so that's not what we want. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select here the sign up button and then click AI assistant. And now here you can see that, so when the user performs an action on the selected element, sign up button, so the action is, let's say, click. And now here, let's describe what we want to happen. So we want to register a new member with the email and password from the email and password inputs, then log the result of the registration. So essentially what we just did, and I'm going to go ahead and click generate code, also because I'm kind of curious to see how similar it'll be to the code that I already wrote. Okay. I wasn't trying to shame this AI. I really wasn't. I was really trying to not promote it, but like really give it a high five. So that's not what I was expecting. Remember, let's try to just say like on the front end. Let's try that. Generate code. Okay. So it turns out that for this, you're actually going to need me. Or you're going to need to be able to code yourself, or possibly, I mean, if you use like ChatGPT or something, it could probably do it as well. But I've used the AI assistant before for other things, like demonstrating in other tutorials, and it did manage to do some good work. So you can try it out. I'm sure they're still improving it. But that could be helpful if you're either lazy or you just are having trouble writing all the code by yourself. Usually the code still needs to be adjusted a little bit, but in general, it does give some valuable code to start with. Now that we have the basics of sign up down, before I dive in and demonstrate the member approval scenario, let's first utilize this and create our login lightbox. So just like we can do custom sign up with Velo, we could also do custom login. And it's actually super, super similar because to do a basic login, you also just need email and password in order to log the person in. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually just gonna duplicate this lightbox that we have over here. So we're just gonna go ahead and duplicate like that. And instead of calling it copy of Velo sign up, I'm gonna call it Velo login. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to head to sign up and login, and here from member login form, I'm going to go to settings. And instead of using custom form here, we're also going to use a Velo form. And in terms of which form we use, we're going to use our Velo login. So I'm going to go ahead and click done. And once we've done that, I'm going to go back to our lightboxes and open up the Velo login lightbox. And here, I'm just going to change this button. So instead of saying sign up, I'm going to say login. Login. And then instead of calling it sign up button, I'm just going to call it here login button. And instead of having here say sign up button, I'm going to say login button. And then instead of authentication.register, I'm just going to do authentication.login. And that should be enough to convert it from a sign up form to a login form. So pretty simple. That's a neat little trick for you just to kind of do it really quickly without lots of double work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, and before I publish this, we just have one little thing we need to deal with, and that is that by default, we're always going to get to the sign up option first, because that's how we have it set up. So we need to set up some kind of code, which is going to, or even probably no code, we could do it, to navigate between our sign up and login form. So if somebody reaches the sign up Lightbox first, we want them to have the option to log in instead. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and add in, let's say, some text. And we'll just put it up here. And I'll write like already a member, log in here. And then I can select the login here and link it to a Lightbox, which is our Velo login. Okay, so we didn't even need any code for that. And then hopefully when they click login here, it'll take them to the other Lightbox. Another potentially cool thing that you can do is to only have one Lightbox and to create like a dynamic experience that could be for both sign up and login. So here, so like you can, when they would click, let's say login instead of sign up, so you would use the same inputs and just call a different function in your code. I think that requires like slightly like a higher level of system understanding and building and architecture and stuff like that than having it separate. So I'm not going to demonstrate exactly how to do it here, but just an idea for you if you want to try something cool, then that could be something that you can do. So let's go ahead and publish this just to test that our login is working. So I'm going to go after this indicates that it published successfully. There we go. Let's head over back to our site. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to log out here. Okay. And okay, great. So we see here that we have our new prompt here to log in. So I'm just going to go ahead and click login here. And now it went to our login Lightbox. Okay. And I mean, yeah, the only scenario where I think you'd actually need to link the login Lightbox the way I did is if you wanted to prompt login first. But technically you could also, have the login on its own page and navigate to that page from the prompted sign up login. So there's interesting things that you can do here, which actually gave me an idea just now for a potential solution to an issue that I talked about in last tutorial, but I digress. So here, let's see, or no, I think it was the beginning of this tutorial actually. Let's test out the login. So as you know, we just logged out. So I'm just going to do here test at the wixwiz.com. And then here for the password, I'm going to do test. Oh, I told you the password. I'm going to go here and log in. And we logged in successfully. So you can see over here. And instead of registration result, so here member, so here you can see that the result here is a little different because this is the result of a login and not the result of a registration. So it looks a little different here. So that is the bare bones registration and login. And now let's try and see what it would look like if we used the manual approval instead, and what our options would be over there. First step, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the manual approval. And just don't forget to save up here. I'm very surprised I even remembered because I always forget to click the save button. So there we go. So we turned on manual approval. And now here, what should happen is that in the registration results, instead of getting back an actual member, we should be getting back an approval token. Okay, and this approval token is a token which we can then send to the backend. So if we go over here, and once we send it to the backend, so let me go over here to Wix members, not Wix Media, Wix members backend. We would use this approve by token to approve, or we could also approve manually from the dashboard. So if you want to approve manually via the dashboard, then you can just go ahead and do that. You don't need to do anything else in terms of the code. If you want to set up some kind of logic for approval, like let's say after the member registers, you do some kind of check in the backend, you run some kind of function or something like that, and then you can either use the token to approve them or not approve them. So this is what you would use. You'd use this approve by token function. One thing that I do want to highlight, before I highlight that, let's quickly create a backend module to house this approval function. So I'm just going to go backend, and let's just do here, let's say members. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to copy paste everything that they have here. Okay, so we have this ready for when we want to approve a member. What we're going to do is, so now I just want to highlight one thing. So if we go over here to Wix members frontend and register. So there was a disclaimer here. I just want to make sure that you see it. So when your site members sign up settings are set to automatic approval, calling register from Wix members frontend is as secure as calling register, unless you are implementing custom site registration using Velo forms. However, when registration is set to manual approval, calling register from the Wix backend allows you to build more secure approval flows by keeping tokens hidden from the front end. This is actually, it's actually not so clear to me now that I read it again what exactly they mean here. So if it means here that unless you're implementing custom site registration using Velo forms, that means that it is more secure or that it's less secure. Yeah, but just know that there is this disclaimer here. Again, these are security scenarios which are, I mean, it's quite niche. Somebody would have to be very quite tech savvy to get these tokens, unless you for some reason put in a console log or something like that. But otherwise, I don't think it's easily manipulatable. But if you're concerned about security, then you might want to look into this a little more and see what the implications are of using Wix, the register on the front end versus the back end, especially with regard to automatic approval. Just a note. So I'm going to continue with what I have in place already. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to change the name of this backend web method here. So I'm just going to call this approve member. Just going to call it approve member. Keep it simple. And I'm going to grab this over here, and I'm going to go to our Velo signup form. And then here in the registration results, so let me change this here to say registration result. And inside this registration result, we should have the token. So let me just paste this right over here for now. And here, register. So we have here approval token. So I'm just going to grab that, head over here, and I'm going to say this. So we'll say here const approval token equals to registration results. And after we get back that approval token, we're going to say await approve member, and we're going to pass in that approval token. Obviously, we need to import this approve member function, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to import approve member from backend / members dot web. And after we do that, here we're going to have const, I think it's called a session token. Okay. Let's see what it returns here. Session token. 1 second. It's going to be an object with a session token. Again, this is just code that Wix built. Okay, this isn't built into the API, so this is technically something that we can alter as well, but let's just use what they have here, because it'll probably also be easier for you if you don't have a coding background to base what you're doing off of the code that Wix provides in the examples. So we're going to have here approved true session token. So let's go over here, and I'll call this instead, I'll call this approval results. And then after this, we'll say if approval result dot approved, if approval result dot approved, then what we're going to do is we're going to want to use that session token to log the member in. So in order to do that, we're going to have here apply session token. Okay, this is also part of authentication. So we're just going to have here await authentication dot apply session token, and we're going to have the approval result dot session token. Okay, and here let's add a log as well. So console.log approval results and approval results. Okay, so it's decent. It's decent. Yeah, I'm not really doing any error handling or stuff, which would also be recommended. But let's see what happens here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to publish this. And as soon as that is ready, we can head over to the live site. And first thing I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to log out here, and we're going to be registering with a new member, okay, because it's not the existing member, because then they should already be approved. They won't be able to register. So let's go over here, and I'll say test2 at thewixwiz.com, and I'm going to give another very secret password here, and I'm going to sign up. Verify I'm a human, and let's take a look here at the console. Okay, good. So here we have a message. Your member sign-up request has been sent and is awaiting approval. The site administrator will notify you via email once your request has been approved. Interestingly, I don't see any of the logs. Maybe they... That's interesting. So, okay. This is very interesting. And I think that this highlights a little bit about what I was reading before. So I think my hunch is that since we were inside of the Lightbox that is linked to the member registration form, Wix does some magic behind the scenes because it knows that that is the purpose of this Lightbox. And part of that magic is that like the fact that we were automatically logged in when we registered, and the fact that when we did it with manual approval, it automatically handled that scenario without us having to use the approval token ourselves. Okay, so that is what I think that note that we read before meant. And just to show you here what it looks like inside of the site member, let's go here to the list of all the site members. Where are all the site members? Site members. Yeah, so here we have, so here you can see here in pending, we have test2. Okay, so this is what the manual approval would look like. To test my theory, what I'm going to do, sorry, that's the Wix Studio. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grab everything that we have here. Let's grab all this stuff here. And I'm going to copy. And let's go and create a new page on our site. going to be a blank page. And it's going to be a sign up page. Let's go over here. Settings, sign up. And let me just see here what the SEO basics are. So this is going to be sign up. Okay. And I'm going to paste this over here. I'm going to paste this over here, just like that. And I'm also going to grab the code from our Lightbox as well. So let's just grab all this code that we have here, and we'll go to our custom sign up page. So again, this is a good demo because it also demonstrates the fact that this, like, custom registration does not have to happen inside the Lightbox that is specifically linked to the member registration form. I mean, you can implement this code anywhere on your website. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if the behavior here looks a little different than what we just experienced with my previous attempt to sign up. So let's go ahead and publish this. And published. Excellent. And I'm going to refresh this right over here. And I'm going to go to the sign up page. And let's try again to sign up. I'm going to sign up with a completely new member. So this will be test 3 at the wixwiz.com. And again, another very secret password. And let's see what we see here in the console as we're signing up. So I verified that I'm human. Okay, so I see here the same pop-up that we saw before. And I'm going to click OK. And again, the authentication has been canceled. But it's interesting that I don't see any of the logs that I saw before. So let me try and explore this a little more deeply and read the documentation one more time and see if I come to any interesting conclusions that I can share with you. I reviewed the documentation several times and I couldn't really find an explanation for what we experienced. So I'm going to assume that it's a discrepancy, meaning a mistake in the documentation, and the registration result will have an approval token if it's done in the back end, but not in the front end. So that's kind of what I think is going on here. So what I've done to test this out is I've created a register member function in the back end. So what I told you I wasn't going to do because it's too complicated, so I'm doing that just to demo this for you. Essentially, I'm just calling that in the back end. So the same thing we were doing in the front end, we're just doing in the back end now. And I want to see if that allows us to get the registration result with the approval token. So I went ahead and I published this, and I'm ready to try it out here. Again, I haven't tried this yet, so I don't know what it's going to do, if it's going to do what we hope or what I expect at the wixwiz.com. And let's go ahead and sign up here. There we go. Okay, so you see here now we got a registration result, okay, which is the approval token over here, you can see, and a member. Okay, interesting. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting either an approval token or a member. So it kind of interesting. But the status is pending. And then we and then at the end, we used the session token. So we got here approved and we got session token and we applied the session token, which should mean that we are logged in. Okay, so you can see we also logged in here. So my conclusion is that if you need to get the approval tokens and handle it manually, then you're going to need to do registration in the back end. If you're okay with the experience that you saw before, where essentially Wix has like an automated pop-up, and then you can go into your dashboard and essentially kind of approve members by yourself manually, then you don't need to do it in the back end. You could just implement a simple registration in the front end. So you don't even need any of this code over here. Okay, if you just try to register a member in the front end, Wix will automatically pick up on it that it's manual, you have manual registration activated, and handle that scenario for you. Okay, so that's an interesting discovery. Before we wrap up, I just want to follow up on something that I promised earlier, and I'm really impressed with myself that I actually remembered. So we talked about the scenario where you want to build out your sign up or login on a page, kind of like I set it up over here. But the issue is that Wix won't allow us to point the member sign up and login forms. Sign up and login forms to a page. It will only let us point to a lightbox. So what can we do about this? One thing that we can try and do, so if we go over here to the sign up form, instead of having the sign up form here like this, what we could do is we can try and just redirect the user to our page. So if I go ahead here and I import Wix location front end, and then I go over here into the onReady, and I just say Wix location frontend.to, and then I go and put here our sign up page, just like that. So essentially, whenever somebody gets to this lightbox, it should take them directly to the sign up page. We might also need to close the lightbox. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to, well, let's test it out. If the lightbox doesn't close automatically, then we'll add in some code to close the lightbox. So let's go ahead and publish that. And let's go to our site. And I'm going to log out. And I'm just going to refresh over here. And let's try and click here, log in. Yeah, so you can see here the URL is the members sign up page. So it did redirect us, but the lightbox is still open. So we're going to need to close the lightbox, which is no biggie. It just means that we need to import Wix window, and here we'll just say Wix window frontend.close.lightbox.close. And I'm not sure what the preference would be here in terms of the order. I'm not sure if we call the lightbox close, if that stops the code from running after that. So we can experiment with that as well. Or you can experiment at home. But for now, let's just see that does basically what we want. So I'm going to go over here. Let's go ahead and refresh. Let me go here to the home page. And I'm going to go ahead and click login up here. And there we go. So there was like a flash of the lightbox, but I imagine you could design the lightbox in a way that it really is very discrete. So essentially close to non-existent. And then this essentially allows you to create the registration and login on a page versus having to do it in those lightboxes that Wix allows you to link to. So we're going to wrap up here for now. Again, this is only the second episode in this series. In the next episode, I want to explore some of the other APIs that we have here within Wix members. So if we take a look here at Wix members front end, we have all these cool things like on login, on logout, logged in, changing password, verify email, and stuff like that. So we're going to take a deeper look at some of these APIs and how they can allow you to build a custom experience with regard to authentication in your website. So if you want to see that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you generally like this video, even though I blabbered a lot and probably made it a little more confusing than necessary, you can go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, recommendations for the rest of the series, please don't hesitate to leave a comment below, and I will see you next time. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. This tutorial may be over, but that doesn't mean that your journey has to end here. YouTube will have some recommendations up above in a moment for more videos, but don't get too distracted because my eyes are over here, and on the WixWiz website we have a lot more resources for you to continue learning or get support for your business or project. We've got a blog, beginner courses, and a community forum where you can vent about Velo or post some tough questions like, why does my header have a mind of its own? On the website, you can also find my personal calendar to schedule a one-on-one and details about getting ongoing assistance from our team of Wix experts. I'll catch you later, and don't forget that every big feature was once a small bug.